to our podcast. Today, we are about to introduce you to an amazing individual who's all about resilience, passion, and carving out a brighter future. In a world full of incredible women making waves, our guest today is like a poster child for Meraki Infusing an unstoppable enthusiasm into every nook and cranny of a fascinating life. Let's meet Nilofar Amreen, a jack of all trades, a deep thinker, and a wanderer with a profound love for the future. Her story is like a gripping novel, full of twists and turns, where she's navigating life with a forward looking passion. Starting her journey in Chennai, India, got pretty interesting when her family decided to move to US. And with a shifting to New Jersey, where she was just a kid of 10-year-old with different culture and a different environment. You can only imagine the rich tapestry of experience that she woven into her life. She calls herself as a third culture kid, which basically means she had the privilege of soaking in a various culture and perspectives. So stick around as we dive into a casual chat with a futuristic super lady. She's all about embracing the unknown, inspiring us to chase our dreams, and showing us how gracefully to tackle the twists and turns into the life. Let's get into the conversation.
Great. Thank you, Tisha. Thank you for having me. And I really appreciate being part of this project. And I'm hoping to share my story and experiences. I'm hoping that it will inspire or maybe um, help elevate whoever is listening. And that is my intention of being part of it.
Great. We would love to hear that. So we begin with one first question of ours. So to begin with, could you please share a personal experience or moment in your life that truly embodies the essence of our podcast theme and which is known as the Meraki moment. So what's that Meraki moment in your life? Let's hear from you.
For me, my Meraki moment started from, you can say, motivated or propelled by really rough situations I was going through in my life. Just to give everybody like a very honest background about my journey, I was actually born in India. I was born in Chennai, Tamil Nadu,
Great.
and my family moved to the United States, specifically in a state called New Jersey in the US when I was around 10 years old. And I am really grateful for this opportunity to have grown up in two different countries, two different cultures, but it comes with its own challenges. I've also had a lot of dysfunction in my family, and I think that propelled me to explore my creativity. And the reason I'm sharing my story is because I also want everyone to understand where my roots are, where I grew up, and how it's influenced me. So I consider myself a third culture kid. It's a term that is used for, human beings or people that have grown up in more than one culture. And I definitely embody that. And, when you experience a lot of our motivations and inspirations, even if we don't really pay attention, they spring from our childhood and they spring from a lot of like trauma that happens to us. So my Meraki moment was propelled by that because I think that because I went through a period in my life where I had severe depression that basically propagated me to explore outside of my existing narratives. So, what does that mean? Existing narratives. My family right now, right? My family is not Orthodox, but they're fairly conservative. I come from an Islamic family.
Mhm.
And my mom is religious and my dad is an atheist, so it's an interesting combination.
Mhm.
But I'm very close to New York City, and it is a melting pot here. Many different cultures, eclectic, a lot of diversity.
Sure.
And, that opened my mind, meeting so many people. So my Meraki moment came through my depression, motivated by my depression, to seek for other perspectives, other ways of being. And that had me, it landed me on, thinking a lot about the human condition, and the human condition, not just of my own, but of everyone else around me. And I started actually expressing through my own essence, through my podcast, actually. And I did a lot of solo podcasting. So what I understood about myself is that I'm a very introspective person. I actually am, I'm an overthinker, and I had to shift my essence of overthinking to contemplating a lot of inquiries and questions about life. My Meraki moment is shaped by all these things. So it started with podcasting. It started with me finding courage to express my internal thoughts and insights as an adult. Because one of the things that I really found value is coming across other human beings, hearing their story, and knowing that, hey, I was not the only one, having those kind of thoughts or questions about life, or questioning culture, or understanding how, culture, family, society affects us as each individuals. And I think it's really being aware of that is important. And I would end this question by saying that I think it's really important to examine the deep impact that culture has on all of us. So I think it's important to have that Meraki moment, because I think it allows you to connect to your own power, that you have a way to control your own destiny. It is possible. You don't have to just be another cog in the machine.
Right. Yeah.
And
So
there's always
that was the core thing to introduce this. This Meraki was that until you realize your inner self, you'll not do anything in your life. Once you realize that inner
Right.
core of your thing, that would be generally, that would come out with a great thing. I personally think.
Absolutely.
From here we can head to the next our question. Like, could you share your freelance writing journey and discuss how your passion for travel has shaped your writing career?
Traveling has been a really, really vital part of shaping who I've become in this moment. And all that comes back to, actually, I'll share the inspiration that I got, how I operate as a human animal. So, and I learned a lot about that, not just from academia. So I majored in life science, right? I basically, in my university that I went here, a lot of my focus was on a lot of the biological sciences, biology, organic chemistry. So I mentioned that because it's important to understand the reductionist point of view and the macroscopic point of view. So understanding how things affect us from the molecular level to the actions we take, right, in everyday life. And I will explain further. So with that understanding, I also came across, there's two really influential books in my life that actually motivated me to travel. One is when I was in high school, I read this book from Richard Dawkins called The Selfish Gene.
Yeah.
So your environment has a huge impact on what kind of genes get expressed. So where you are, what you surround yourself with, from people, culture, everything shapes who you are.
Sure.
So I'm going to connect that to travel.
Mm-hmm.
And then number two, this book called Sapiens. It was written by Yuval Noah Harari, who's a really, historian. And he talks about the history of human, how we emerged as a Homo sapien, where we are in our current timeline of being this human creature to where we're heading, which is towards Homo techno, which I'll talk about maybe later. So with that said, reading those books gave me a deeper understanding of how environment impacts who you are. And as in, I'm not talking about going on YouTube videos, watching what it's like at the other side of the world, but physically putting yourself there. Mm-hmm. And so traveling in itself helps you build grit, and it helps you give new perspectives. So as an artist, as an explorer, and an avid traveler, traveling gives me insights. And what I'd like to do is, when I was traveling, I would get all these, I'm an observer. I love observing people, new environments. I love making the contrast between different cultures. I like to think like an anthropologist. So I'm going to navigate through my Substack because as I was traveling, I wrote down notes of all the insights that were coming to my mind. And I want to share some of those insights. Here are some notes I took down. Mm-hmm. Life is fruitful when there's struggle, the irony as far as one can bear it. Travel, and then this is a note I wrote. Traveling has helped me value myself more, see myself outside of the lens of people and places I'm used to. I see myself from a different perspective, and it always helps me see that I'm worthy of my joy, worthy of my silly dreams and hobbies, worthy of the adventure I seek, worthy of my vision, worthy of the weird life I imagine that may trigger other people as I break the limits of my boundaries.
Motivating words. I think surely audience will enjoy that. Audience will be motivated with that. Because see, the observers are the best. I think I'm also a good observer. So observers are they go and do deep into what they're seeing. They go deep into every aspects of life. And then they get the actuality of it. Then they get the reality of it. So that's a great thing. Having that observer nature of yours, it's very necessary, I think. And it's good also. How do you see yourself as a futurist? Like futurist, when I listened to that word futurist, I was very eager to know, like how do you see yourself as a futurist? And what area of future are you particularly interested in exploring? So what futurist like? What do you want to do?
To me, being a futurist requires for you to care about what is becoming and what is to come. So first of all, I just want to say that I'm an idealist. So meaning, I think being an idealist and being a dreamer go hand in hand. I'm trying to become a more idealist that is also a realist, because I also have to look at what direction we're heading in with everything else that's happening now. So I see myself as a futurist because I am very hopeful and I am constantly thinking about the future. When I was going through some really rough days, I would imagine in my mind about the future of traveling. I would imagine in my mind, I would look at Google Maps, I would pull up the map, and I would dream about, wow, how amazing would it be if tomorrow I could fly over here? And this is a rough day today, but I'm going to get through this so I can one day travel to this place, right?
So did you that futurist thing that you have thought about? Did you try to implement the same thing that you structured yourself? For example, you thought about the place you want to travel at that time.
Yes.
In a future, in a 10 ahead, you want to. So were you successful doing that? The same place?
Absolutely. Yeah, I actually made it happen. So I took a risk. I know this is maybe a little bit deviating away from the question of how do you see yourself in the future, so I'll come back to it. So for me, I had to sacrifice a few things to be able to do what I wanted to do.
Okay.
To have my individualism and to have the autonomy. So for example, I would say, I didn't come from a rich family. My family is basically middle class, and a lot of what I have wanted to do, my dreams of traveling, I paid for completely on my own. That means I had to look at my finances, right? Practically, I would rather put this money aside to go travel and see the world. So that's a sacrifice I made. So now I don't have enough money saved for a house. Now I have to work on that. Okay. But I made that sacrifice. I made that choice because for me that was what was important. Attaining those life experiences, I found more value.
Like you said, you are you're passionate about social science. Which contemporary social issues or the trends you recently picked up for your write-up or something? You picked up something, the social issues that can you share? You want to share with us?
The social science deals with human behavior in a social and cultural aspects. So usually within the social sciences are cultural or social anthropology, sociology, psychology, political science, and economics. So I want to highlight that. I want to bring up that definition because social science consists of multiple variables.
True.
Right. It's cultural, there's psychological aspects involved in it. So I'll start off with this. Growing up in two different cultures, being a third culture kid, I I had to understand, and I actually didn't understand this concept until literally a year ago. And the concept of individualist and collectivist cultures and what that means. So start off with that. So in United States is a very individualist culture.
Yeah.
So meaning there's a lot of emphasis put on you as an individual executing and pursuing your individualistic dreams, which may not connect to certain values and systems of your tribe. And what do I mean by tribe? Basically, like your family, right? Your traditional culture. So it's a very individualist culture. There's more propagation towards that here in the U.S. Now, this is a binary thing all over the world. Different countries have either more emphasis on individualist culture or collectivist culture. Now, there's benefits to both, and I think we need to immerse both. Now, being South Indian and coming from like having that South Indian culture, we are more collectivists.
True.
So meaning, and there's benefits with that too, right? We value more being connected to the family, connected to the tribe, and making decisions and being mindful of how that impacts the tribe,
True.
Which is also important to embody. But I think it's good to have a balance of both because there's benefits in both.
True.
So if you think about it this way, right? And this is thinking from the aspect of social science, basically. So if we think about progress in society and thinking about how culture is supposed to evolve, we live in a modern era right now.
True.
So let's say, like, whatever, 50 years ago, 60 years ago, maybe not that long ago, for us as women, traditionally in a traditional culture, we didn't have many freedoms, right?
Right.
We didn't have many freedoms to vote. We didn't, society didn't really see worth in us pursuing an education, empowering our mind, intelligence, which we all have. And I think as women, we contribute to society more than just, being mothers. I mean, we can be so many things beyond that.
We are multitasking.
So absolutely. And that way of thinking had to emerge.
Right.
And it had to kind of deviate away from a collectivist way of thinking. It had to come from an individualistic thought for us to reach that point. So we have to, I think, to challenge norms requires an individualist way of thinking. We cannot always dwell in the group thinking and, immerse ourselves in cultural norms constantly. The way to question cultural norms, collectivist thinking, is to say, hey, as an individual, this impacts me. And I need to express that. And there's power in that. So coming back to being a woman and expressing that, if we had not expressed that, then things would stay in the collectivist way, right? And they would not evolve. So that's my perception. This is my subjective perspective about why I think having both individuals and collectivists is important from a social science perspective. A lot of my writing and social science comes back to the exploration of the human condition, right? Why do we function in this way as human beings? Why is it's important for us to not keep ourselves in the group thinking, and how do we deviate away from that? So if you guys ever explore my articles that I write in the She Site magazine, you'll see that I explore things from that social science perspective. I'm constantly examining how does culture and different cultural ideas impact us? And that gives me the inspiration and the insight to write these articles.
Your travel experience also affected to your writing? Your writing, you selected something for the travel. How do you travel? Where do you go? In your write-up also, or only through the podcast?
In my write-up as well. So far in my articles at She Site, I haven't shared a very specific experience.
Mhm.
So last year I traveled to 8 countries.
Okay, that's great.
I've got in the US and in the US, and I didn't take any vacation while I traveled. I constantly worked, and it was a very stressful year for that reason. But I was also motivated. I wrote an article at She's site called Memento Mori.
Yeah.
Memento Mori, I think, is a Latin or Greek word, means remember death. I'm coming back to that, and that's one of the reasons I traveled. To be really vulnerable with that, I was having an existential crisis, right?
Okay.
To mix that with remembering death, I think that was what was fueling me to travel. Again, knowing that, hey, I could drop at any moment. What would I do with that?
Yeah. Doing so many things
Yeah.
at a time, how do you balance everything?
I mentioned earlier that I have ADD. I think it's I see that as a superpower. So first of all, I think ADD naturally inclines you to be interested in multiple things. This is kind of how we function.
Mhm.
We're pulled in different directions. We're interested in many different things. We naturally deviate towards being a polymath. Polymath is someone that doesn't just, we're generalists. We are interested in just multiple subjects, multiple perspectives.
Okay.
Balance, to be quite honest, it's a struggle. It's always a struggle, mostly because
Mhm.
we live in a capitalist society, right? We need to pay bills, we need to pay taxes. So there's some way I need to find a way to make money with the knowledge and skills that I possess. I'm a knowledge worker, so I'm able to do that.
Okay.
But what makes it easier, right, with my roles as a writer, traveler, podcaster, preacher, social science enthusiast, all of these terms, how they connect with me is that I have fun being a writer. I see traveling as fun. I see podcasting as fun. I see me thinking about the future and the future of humanity and the impact of technology and seeing how examining things from through the lens of social science. This is fun. This is fun for me. This is not a chore. This doesn't feel like work. Balance doesn't even cross my mind because I am just in a state of flow. I love doing this stuff. So I think the key, you're able to be multifaceted and you're able to get that natural energy when you are doing something you love.
Very true. Very true.
It doesn't feel like work. You're like, wow, this is just I feel joy doing this. It doesn't
It
stress me
doesn't
out.
feel like burden or something. There's no.
It doesn't. But I do struggle with the balance because I do have a job that I have to finish my task. Like that's where I have to achieve that balance, like to be able to complete that and be able to work on my passion projects right now. And one day I have no idea how I'm going to handle it when I have family. And I don't know how you do it, Tisha.
It's difficult, but at times it's fun. It's relaxing
Of
also.
course.
If you do the productive things,
I'm
so
glad to hear that.
yeah, if you're guiding your son or a daughter also, so you're learning something from them. So that's
Yes.
also the learning phase. What do you suggest something for the budding writer, budding podcaster? What do you suggest from your side? How do you give them a lesson, a life lesson or something, work experience lesson they should follow and they should go further with it? So you want to share with that?
If you want to make the most out of life and you have these silly ideas in your head and the world is telling you, hey, they're silly, don't do it, it's worthless, do not listen to that voice and do not listen to the perfectionist in you. Perfectionism is an obstacle. So my writing, me becoming a writer, me doing my podcasts, literally I meet people every day that come to me and say, wow, I can't believe you have a podcast. How is that? That must be so difficult. And I'm like, it's actually not. And they tell me, oh yeah, I could never do that. That seems complicated. You know why they think that way? Because they are thinking from a perfectionist point of view.
Right.
I think that we get stuck in our head.
Mhm.
I think that's what stops us, and we shouldn't let that stop us. So, what has helped me in my creative journey is to disconnect from that perfectionist and just do it. No matter, even if I know it's gonna, I'm gonna fail or it just ends up being messy. Just doing it, taking action. It's creative journey is an iterative process. You just have to do it to try and see, hey, Does this feel good? Am I able to, like, what is the result? And if it's messy, if it's chaotic, it's okay. You learn from that. That's a data point for you.
Right, right.
And then you can take that and, the path will emerge once you just take action.
Right.
And try it. So don't let the perfectionist in you stop you. Just try it. Just do it, no matter how ridiculous it seems, and you will not regret it. And I think that's really important.
Very true. Very true. Very true. You are our she writer, already our she writer, and I'll tell you that the Meraki podcast, you're the first guest. So I wanted to complete this podcast, and I'm very grateful for that. So you want to share something about the she side experience? Like how do you like it, or how do you go about it? Now, what motivates you to write for the she side write-ups also? So want to end that with a positive note, I must say.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I'll be completely honest with my experience. So when Dr. Chandra first reached out to me,
Yeah.
I didn't know, I've never come across this concept. I mean, I've heard about pro bono, writing pro bono, and I've never heard about the She Side community.
Yeah.
So for me, more than just going on the website, I'll be honest, what was really cool is we are added to the She Side writer community chat group.
Yeah.
I actually was inspired by being part of the community and seeing all the women comment. And sometimes Dr. Chandra shares her experience and these cool articles. It was really, really great to be part of the community because coming back to having moved away from India and growing up in the US, I feel like it really connected me back to a lot of women in India and what they were going through. Honestly, I didn't have that perspective. Sometimes the women would share what hurdles they would face in the workplace, in the Indian community. And all of that was actually, I had no idea. It was really enlightening, in terms of how attire affects the way we navigate through a workplace and how modern ideas are impacting Indian culture. I think being part of a community is what I found the most value in, and seeing, well, to be honest, other brown women, what they're going through.
Yeah.
I actually appreciate being part of a collective and learning from other women. I found a lot of value in that. And in that regard, the She Side community has been inspiring to me. And I think it's allowed me to reconnect back to that essence, right? To being an Indian woman. And even though I'm on the other side of the world, I'm still connected to that. And I am all of them, and they're me, and I am them. And I'm hoping to continue to learn from the community and also share, whatever I'm going through. I'm hoping that it adds to that data point to help people understand, okay, this is possible in another side of the world. With globalization too, I think that it's interesting to see how that's impacted nationally, just different parts of the world.
So grateful that you value so much the going abroad, and just when you were a child, 10-year-old, you were outside India, but you still value still cherish the moments of India. So that's what I like about it. You are aware.
Yeah. I mean, childhood is really so I only moved here when I was 10 years old, right? And I understand psychologically the impact that your childhood experiences have for the rest of your adult life. And for me, my core childhood experiences were in India. So, I don't think I could ever disconnect from that. That's a part of me. My grandma's house in India, in Chennai, growing up there, going to school there, right? That stays with me for the rest of my life.
Great to hear that, Miss Amreen.